Good morning, everyone. This is Javon Thomas and Crystal Mitchell, and we are part of Conversations on the Patio. And I just want to welcome you this afternoon for a new year. I hope all of y'all had a great year. And let's get right in. First, I'd like to introduce Crystal Mitchell. She's going to help us talk about some of the things that you should have learned when you were in school, or how can we put it better? Some of the things you should have been taught when you were in school. And just as background, we want to make sure everybody knows that we started this program when we were met on LinkedIn. And we realized through our conversation and becoming friends and colleagues that there are lots of people out there that are having conversations about finance or things that eventually come back to finance, and they're getting incorrect information. So we wanted to set the level straight. So, Crystal, without any ado, please say hello. Is that you, Crystal?
Hello, how's everyone today? Welcome to the conversations on the patio. We're excited about starting a new year, 2021, everyone. And so, of course, and when you're starting a new year, everything resets January 1. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how do we move forward? How do we get jumpstart January 2, 2021, and make sure that we have a fantastic year and you put some money away and all is well in a crazy chaotic world that we live in. So
Good
hello,
deal.
Javon. Well,
Hello,
I am
hello.
glad to be here. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy New Year to you. I know you had a great celebration. Um,
I did. I rested. That's what I
ah,
did. That was my whole celebration. I rested.
Even better, even better, even better. Well, I just want to
Even
take
better.
a second to talk a little
Okay.
bit about you because there's a lot of things people don't know about you, and one of the reasons why you're on the show and helping me with this. So I'm just going to read a couple of your accomplishments so people know who you are, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, everybody, this is Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's a co director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's also the co host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. That's a weekly online show as well. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College. She's a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and last but not least, a QuickBooks Pro Advisor and financial strategist. So we've got some great talent there with Crystal in this situation, talking about things people should be taught in school. So welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just, my list of stuff that I've acquired and accumulated over the last 30 something
Indeed.
years, but it's
Yeah,
cool. It's all for the benefit of the people that we serve.
there you go. I
Mhm.
myself am a licensed retirement plan advisor. And I've been in the business for about 20 years and have some interesting experiences. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and knock that off. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is this being the beginning of the year. How do you get started with your 401k plan? And Crystal, of course, if you have some questions about that, totally welcome those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is number one, start your 401k. It's a good time to do it. Most companies are allowing you to do this for a period of time right now. If you have the opportunity, start a 401k. Start that. Start making your contributions to that. First thing we want to realize is the maximum that you can put in your 401k for this year is somewhere around $19,500. If you're over the age of 50, you can put in an additional $6,500. So that's about $26,000 that you can put away. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
significant.
yeah. Some people are going to say to you right here and now, we'll just get it right out in the open, that a 401k plan is not a good way to save because you can't control it. You don't understand where the dollars go, where's the money come from, and you don't make a return immediately. And there's a couple of articles out there that talk about that, and I have another show that I talk about those kinds of issues, and they're all wrong. If someone says that kind of thing to you, then you want to, and I'll try not to stay too long on this, but using a sports analogy, it's sort of like playing baseball and starting at first base, right? The rules are that you start at home plate, you three strikes, you're out, and so on. The rules of 401k, albeit all investing, are similar. You have to follow the rules. And as my father used to tell me, you've got to use the right rule, a right tool for the right job. You can't treat all of your tools the same way. And just to get out of that sports analogy, if you're cooking and you have a spatula and that's all it is that you're using to cook with, you're going to run into trouble, right? We need an oven. We need a stove. We need some pots. We need some pans. We need a lot of stuff to make this work. But just because we need a lot of stuff doesn't mean that they can't work. You just have to learn how to do it. And you can learn by asking people, you can learn by trial and error. Crystal and I are here so that you can learn by asking. So the first thing to know is let's talk about this 401k thing. We know we want to get in. What is this thing? Well, to be honest with you, a 401k is actually a loophole in the tax code. Someone back in I want to say the 70s figured out there's a way to get a tax benefit for using a certain type of an account. And then we had to go through some legal things to get it done. And finally, here it is, the 401k that we know and love. But that's why it can't just be set up in a minute. Even though those loopholes are there, we still have to go through the contracts and the signatures and the setting up and the implementation. We still have to go through all of that to get it done. So if you're a new person, or rather, if you're an employer, understand yes, this is a great time to start a 401k plan. Investments are doing all kinds of things. Interest rates are low. This is a great time to hold on to your employees. If you're an employee, this is a great time to start saving money. A great time. Okay. So moving around along. As an employee, we've decided to set up a plan. Let's take that. Let's take it from that point of view. All right. How do we become successful? In my world, this is extremely important because there are usually two kinds of advisors out there. And let me say right here and now, if you have a 401k plan or you're starting a 401k plan, get yourself a financial advisor. It's so important because you're going to pay that person to help you, and you may as well start paying them immediately, right? And start asking them questions and making them earn their money. So
Mhm.
the question becomes, how are 401k advisors different than non 401k advisors? Okay. So my cousin out in Atlanta has a few 401k plans scattered around. And she said to me, Javon, I got my 401k plan here over at ABC Company. It's doing nothing, not doing me any good. My friend who lives down the street that I ride motorcycles with said, I'm going to invest in something else because I'm not getting anything out of my 401k plan. Right. And this goes back to two different kinds of advisors using the
Mhm.
right tool for the right job. Most people think they're going to be in the market long term. And admittedly, as an educator, I would always say to my retirement plan investors, hey, you need to be a long term investor. And they would say, great, that's exactly who I am. And I would say, fine, but I wouldn't ask them what they thought of a long term investor. So, a long term investor for a person outside of their 401k plan is someone who's going to be in the market for a long time. Usually, we say that's between 5 and 10 years or more, right? That's what we call a long term investor.
Mhm.
A long term investor inside your 401k plan is someone who's going to be in the market for a considerable long bit of time, 5, maybe 10 years, but
Mhm.
they're going to take advantage of market upturns and downturns. That's where the key difference comes. We're going to take advantage of the downturns and the upturns. So, how do we do that? Well, the term in my world is rebalancing your portfolio. That's the big thing. So, what does that mean? Essentially, it means you're going to sell the winners and buy the losers,
Mm.
which means that when the market is going up, you're going to be looking to sell those profits, to sell those shares. And when the market goes down, you're ready to buy those. Now that's counterintuitive. You would say, why would you want to do that? Well, remember, you're going to be in the market for a long time. So, in order to take advantage of market upturns and downturns, you have to do exactly that. Now, why is it you want to take advantage of market upturns and downturns? Why is it, and what's the strategy behind it? If you take a look at the stock market since the crash of 1929, you'll see that it's continually going up. There's some ups and downs in there, but in actuality, it's going up. And if we have a really further in the grain discussion, you'll find out that a huge amount of that upturn is inflation. But we don't need to talk about that now. So the market since 29 has gone up. All right. So the way you make money is to continuously go up with those ups and downs in the market. And the way to do that is to get in and to get in early and take advantage of that upturn. All right. So if you're going to take advantage of that upturn, the best way to do that is to make sure that since the market is going to go up, the amount of the amount of money and the place that you put your money is kind of important. As that market goes up, you're going to and you rebalance, you're going to buy low and sell high along that line. So in actuality, what you're really doing is you're buying more shares, right? Because
Mm.
if you start here and you end here, if you start here and end here, if you start here and end here,
There you go.
as long as you're in the market, you're going to see an increase. So, how do you get more shares in the market? You buy cheap,
So let
right?
me ask this, Javon. So, okay, so a prime example of that has been what transpired in 2020, right? The market was up and down and up and down and up and down. But do you think, or and I'm sure your clients have done that because they have you, but those that didn't have you, so pretty much their plan has been going up and down, and they've had no control over that plan, right?
Right.
So when they look at their statement, for the end of for 2020, it's going to look like a disaster show, right?
Yes. 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 Yeah.
So now what can they do now that we're in January? What can they do to kind of right the plane? Because right now the plane is like this. They're hanging, they're teetering on the edge. So what can they do starting right today in order to adjust and make sure they're on the right path for 2021? Because I'm imagining it's going to still do some fluctuating um, in 2021 as well.
Oh, Crystal, thank you so much for asking that question. Because it gets boring listening to me talk forever in a day. So essentially, the question that Crystal asked was, okay, my 401k plan's in ruins. What do I do? How do I make this better so I can make some money? Right? Can we say that fairly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
remember, the stock market goes from here to here, right? It goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for you to make money in the market, you've got to be going up with it, right? I need a head nod.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we put money in the market here and we wait long enough, we're going to get here. We're going to go up with the market. Because remember, the market
Okay.
goes up, but it goes up and down as it goes up, right? Are you with me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you look
Mm-hmm.
at the cost or the value of a dollar um, in 1929 versus the value of the dollar now, it would be considerably higher.
Mm-hmm.
Good example. How much did your first car cost you?
Oh, I don't know, probably about $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah. And that same car today would cost you considerably more, right?
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
values go up, the value of stocks and bonds go up. That same stock is going to go up. It's just not going to go up in a straight line. It goes up and down. That's the key thing we have to remember is that it does go up, but in the short term, it goes up and down,
Mm-hmm.
right? We saw that with the .com crash. We see that
Mm-hmm.
with stocks every day. We buy, they go up, they go down. And in most people's experience, the stock goes up, they're happy, it goes down, they're sad, and they sell. They lock in that loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
that in a 401k plan because we may have 10, 15 more years to go. And I can guarantee you within that 10 to
Mm.
15 years, that stock's going to go up, and that stock's going to go down. Those bonds are going to go up, those bonds are going to go down. We can't control what happens in the market. It's extremely dynamic. If you call me to say, hey, Javon, what's the market going to do over the next 3 years? I can't give you a good answer. We can run a bunch of models, but as you know, the model is not the terrain,
Mm,
right? So
mm-hmm.
is the market going to go up?
Right,
Yeah, that's
right,
the deal.
exactly.
Are our stocks and bonds going to go up? Yes. Are they going to go up in the short term? Yes and no, right? So when do you want to get in?
Mm-hmm.
When the market is down. That's when you make your money. Let me ask you another question before you say that. When do you make money on your house? When you
Okay.
buy or when you sell?
When you sell.
Okay. You make money on your house when you sell because you get that windfall, right? You
Yeah.
bought your house at
Mm-hmm.
$100,000. Now it's worth $200,000. You made $100,000. What if you bought that house at $50,000 and you sell it at $200,000?
Yeah, you've made a
You've made more money,
windfall.
right?
Your investment has your investment is paid off.
So what would you rather? Buy the house at 100 or buy the house at
Sure.
50?
Yes. That's the only time your investment pays off with a house, right?
Right, right. So you buy low,
Yes.
right? And you sell high. Well, here's the cool thing
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
that experiment. If you
Mm-hmm.
buy that
Mm-hmm.
house at 100 and you sell it at 200, you've made $100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you buy that
Mm-hmm.
house at 50 and you sell it at 200, you've made $150,000, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you buy that house at 50 and you don't even wait till 200, you sell at 175, you've still made $125,000,
Right.
right? So you need to buy cheap. And if you buy cheap, you don't even have to sell at the highest rate. You could even sell a little bit less and make money if you buy cheap. So when the market goes down, that's when you want to buy.
So what you're saying to me is exactly so like recently Apple split its price 5 ways or whatever. So now I could go back in and buy more because it was cheaper, and so then I could increase the shares that I had, right? So
Theoretically,
you're saying
yes.
that theoretically, yeah. So then you're saying the same thing that provided I have an advisor, because can you do that on your own, but you really don't have all of the particulars and the data and all that sort of stuff to just say, okay, I'm going to go in and out, on a regular basis. It really needs to be a strategy. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much. One of the rules that we say, number one, if you have a retirement investment, first rule, get in, right? That's the first rule. You
Okay.
can't make money unless you're in.
Okay.
Second rule,
True.
be a long term investor, which means take advantage of ups and downs in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Third rule is you cannot time the market. Nobody can. We got models, that's just not true. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but you have got to get in and take care of business. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you do that, right? How do you be in the market and not time it? The fourth rule is you got to rebalance your portfolio. Combined with that fourth rule is having the right asset allocations. I can't tell you what the market's going to do, but I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
how to react to the market, right? You can
Okay.
control your actions. So, what you want to do is make sure you have the right mix of stocks and bonds so that they match your particular risk tolerance. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
So, how do we figure out what your risk tolerance is? Well, to be honest with you, every mutual fund company out there has a questionnaire. It takes about 10 minutes with a ham sandwich to take it. Usually it's between 7 and 10 questions. And they're all the same. And they're all designed to get you what we call the right mix of stocks and bonds, your asset allocation. Over 90% of the growth in your portfolio comes from your asset allocation, your mix of stocks and bonds. Now, remember the other things we said time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be in there for a long time, and we're going to take advantage of ups and downs. All right.
Mm.
Okay, got that combination, long time and advantage of ups and downs. So you put your money in, you take the questionnaire, you get the
Mm-hmm.
right mix of stocks and bonds for you.
Mm-hmm.
You rebalance, that means you sell the winners, buy the losers. And by the way, you can do that with a press of the button on your
Ah.
system. You don't even have
o-
to do it yourself. Press of the button.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You can do it quarterly, you can do it annually. If you want mine, do you want to make me happy? I would say do it quarterly. Some people do it annually, some people do it every 2 years, right? But I'm going to say at least do it quarterly. Okay.
Now, how
You
often do
rebalance.
you just talked about an assessment. So if I started my plan, let's say I was in my, you know, I started early 30, and then now I'm getting closer to retirement. So now I'm maybe 5 years out for retirement. And so now I have a real clear idea of what I want my retirement to look like. So do I need to now sit down with you and say, hey, Javon, I got 5 years to go. And if health stays with me and everything, the job stays put, this is what I need, or I'm thinking I need at the end in order to retire the life that I want to live, right?
Hmm?
So do I sit down at a 5 year point, or do I sit down if I'm 5 years out, or do I sit down with you earlier than that?
Okay, so like we were talking about before, if we're going to play baseball, we got to start at home base, right? And we got the rules, right?
Right. Hmm.
So you want to talk with your financial advisor. I would say every time something happens in your life, you get married, you have kids, your dog dies, you change your insurance, whatever it is that changes your life, you want to talk to your advisor about that. And the reason is because your world is going to change as you get older, and
Hmm.
we've talked about this before. In my 20s and 30s, I looked like everybody else was in their 20s and 30s. I was buying beer and trying to get a girlfriend, and well, I had a girlfriend, but I was trying to think about buying a house and what have you. I looked like everybody else, right?
Right.
When I got into my 40s, I started looking a little bit different, right?
Okay.
I had different needs,
Hmm.
right? That's what
Hmm.
happens to us. So your needs are going to change over time. So you need to adjust that. And so not only are the mix of stocks and bonds that you have going to adjust, but your risk tolerance and your allocation, that's going to adjust, and maybe
Okay.
even the why, what you're looking for, that's going to
Hmm.
adjust. Do you have kids now? Do you didn't have them back then? And they're going to go up and they're going to go down. They're going to come in and they're going to come out. That's
Hmm.
fine. You want to do that. One of the things that we say in our business is the investment mix that keeps you up at night is not good for you. So you want to do that regularly. So in answer to your question, yeah, you want to talk to me 5 years out. That's one of my golden rules. So thanks for bringing that up. Five
Okay.
years out, we want to start transitioning into living in retirement. How are we going to do that? But
Hmm.
we want to talk to that advisor along the way because we don't want any surprises. No
Hmm.
surprises. We know what's going on, right?
Right.
How much should you put in? As much as you can. The government's going to give you $19,500 if you're under 50 to put that money in. That's money you get to keep, right? It's money that you don't have to give away. So take advantage of that. And if you do it via the Roth, then you pay the taxes and it grows. But they both grow tax deferred. But the deal is $19,500 is pretty much the amount you can put in until you reach 50. You can put more in then. All right, so how do we win though? Those
Hmm.
rules we talked about.
Right.
First rule, get in. Second rule, make sure you have a long term strategy, which includes market upturns and downturns. Third rule, get that asset allocation right. And number four, rebalance your portfolio. Those kind of go together, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
let's take a quick break because I want to make sure everybody knows who you are.
Okay.
So,
And who we are.
who we are. Yeah, well, people know me.
Oh, everyone knows you.
Even people I don't want to. But anyway, let me introduce Crystal Mitchell, my friend and colleague. She's a business coach consultant, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's also a co host of another show called The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. And I'm just going to stick it here in my little thing about Crystal that she didn't tell me what his last name was, but we won't talk about that. That's a weekly show also. It's on Fridays. She's an instructor at Mount St. Antonio Community College. She's a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and she's a teacher there, and she is a advisor and financial strategist with QuickBooks in her pocket. So that's Crystal. Crystal, I'm a financial advisor, registered, been doing this for about 18 years. Okay, we talked about What to do at the end? Yes, get with your financial advisor, but start early, right? We talked about you got to have the right mix of stocks and bonds because that's how you control how the market affects you, right? We can't
Mm-hmm.
control the market, we can only control how it affects us. We talked about rebalancing your portfolio, selling the winners, buying the losers. That helps us take advantage of market upturns and downturns. We got to do that because we're going to be in the market for a long time, long time. If I can get you into the market, putting away at least 10% in your 20s or maybe even your early 30s, if we can start that, when you get to your late 50s, you're going to be looking at a nice looking retirement. You're going to see ups and downs come. You're going to be nice, but you got to put the money in. You
Mm-hmm.
can't be like so many of my folks put it in one time and then expect it to do something. It doesn't work like that.
So here's a question for you. So a lot of people have been, due to COVID and the quarantines and so forth and so on, a lot of people have lost their jobs or furloughed their jobs, that basically they're not getting a paycheck. They're getting paid, they're getting their EDD. So what has happened? And let's say, so two questions, two-part questions. So what has happened to those that were been furloughed and are just waiting for inevitably when they can come back to work, if that's the case, if the business is still existing? That's question one. Question two, we already kind of know what happens if the business just folds and they go bankrupt, and that's the end of it. But where do people go to find their 401k, especially if they've been working 10, 15, 20 years for a company? And thirdly, they come back. Let's say in July, the company says, "Okay, we're going to come back. You guys we're bringing you back on." What has happened in that time frame?
Okay, great questions. Let's kind of break those down. Number one, we'll start back at this end.
Okay.
You've been furloughed, you came back, you go to your website or the company's website and you
Mhm.
find out who the carrier is for your 401k because it's been a while because you forgot about it.
Mhm.
You go to their website, you see you have a balance there.
Mhm.
All the money that you contribute to your 401k plan, your money. It
Mhm.
cannot be taken away from you. If you
Okay.
contributed, it's your money. It does not belong to the company. And in fact, your money's in a trust so that the company can't take it away from you. So if you contributed, and that means all that 401k money, all those employee contributions,
Mhm.
along with if you happen to have a safe harbor plan and you're getting a 4% match or you're getting a 3% contribution, if you have one of those, all that money cannot be taken away from you. You are immediately what we call vested in your portfolio. Vested means ownership, right? So if
Okay.
you didn't touch the money and it's there, it's still there. It's been in the market. It's been going up and down with the market. You haven't been able to make a contribution, but it's still been going up and down. With Mr. Trump, we've had some good days and some not so good days. So depending on what your asset allocation is, you may have made some money, you may not have. Okay, but it's
Okay.
still there. Okay. If you
Okay.
sell, if you sell on those things that you lost money on, you're locking in the loss. So the thing you want to do is take a look at that mix, take a look at your rebalancing strategy, and determine if you need to move things around or if you need to leave things as they are, or, and I like this one the most, if you need to add some more money. So
Okay.
you want to talk to your financial advisor. You're paying that financial advisor, and I can't emphasize this more, is you're paying for that financial advisor. Every plan ought to have one. If they don't, you should be upset. So you're paying for someone to ask those questions. So you want to do that. So the money's there. Okay. What do you do with regard to getting that money out? You need some of that money, let's say. All right.
Mhm.
The CARES Act has helped people with regard to withdrawals take out more than they used to take out, which was $50,000. So,
Mhm.
um, as far as I know, that law ended at the end of the year. So, can you take the money out? Yes. You'll have to talk to your HR people. They can help you with that. They'll hook you up with your financial advisor. I'm sorry, with the people that have your money, your
Mhm.
carrier, and you
Mhm.
can do that. You can take that money out.
Mhm.
So I believe that was the issue, right?
With the CARES, I believe that was. Now we're in the midst, new CARES Act. or I
Yes.
think it has a new name. I don't have all the details as of yet, but I will have all the details on Thursday.
Yes. Well, you're in the same boat that the rest of us are in. We're sort of flying by our pants here. So the thing to remember is that your money's there. Now, let's take a look at your money that you may not be vested in, right? Let's say that the employer has made a contribution on your behalf. Usually we call this a profit sharing plan, right?
Mhm.
It's better to call it an employer contribution, right?
Mhm.
It has a vesting schedule. So let's say that vesting schedule is 7 years, and you have to work for the company for 7 years, actually 8 years, in order to get that money, right?
Mhm.
So you've got the
Mhm.
money you put in, employee contributions. You got the money that your company put in for you, employer contributions. Okay, now, is that money still there? And the answer is yes. It's still in the
Okay.
market. It's still growing. Has the market gone up? Yes. Has the market gone down? Yes. So according to what's going on in the market, it's still there, right?
Mhm.
If you leave that organization before your vesting period is up, so let's say your vesting period is 6 years and you leave in year 4,
Mhm.
then you're only going to get about 30% of that employer money. Make sense?
Oh,
Right? So that's how
okay.
people get hurt. So that's why we say to folks, if you know someone's going to leave your organization, right,
Mhm.
make sure they leave in the first year. Because if they
So they
leave,
don't lose any money because they
they
not
don't get any
vested,
money from the
right?
employer, right? Well, the
Right.
employer will put money away, but they'll get to take it back. So you don't want these people staying for 9 and 10 years because then they get to take all that employer money with them, right?
Okay.
So the furlough, the loss of the job, all of that stuff should not have affected your money. All right. Now, if we have some folks, I'm just going to go out, hope, try not to get confused, but if we have some folks that have what we call a non qualified plan, right? A
Mhm.
plan that's not an ERISA plan, all right? Sometimes they call it a deferred comp plan. Sometimes they call it an executive plan. If you have a plan like that, then we need to have a different discussion because that's
Okay.
not protected by ERISA. It's
Mhm.
not protected by the government. It is a contract between you and the employer. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So different things can happen with that. But
Okay.
for most
Okay.
of the folks that you and I know, if you're starting a 401k or 403b, if you're participating in one, if you have the option of participating in one, then your money is still going to be there. Here's an interesting point, though, to remember. If you're an employee and your company has a 401k plan, and you decide, I don't want to contribute to that 401k plan because I don't like the investments,
Mm.
right? Some
Mhm.
people just don't. Okay. I'd rather contribute to an IRA because then I can control the investments that I have. Because remember, if you're in a 401k plan, you don't get to choose the investments in the plan. You get to choose from the list of investments that you are offered to you, but you don't get
Mhm.
to choose from the list of the plan. And that's by design, and we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's
Mm.
say that you don't like the investments in the plan. You want to invest in an IRA where you have more control. Well, number one, in your plan, you can put 19,500 away, right? That's
But
a
you
good
can't do
thing.
that in an IRA.
In your IRA, you can put away 6 grand,
Oh,
right?
that's
You
that's
decide,
significant.
yeah. So you decide I'm not going to invest in the plan, even though it's 19.5. I'm going to invest in my IRA, even though it's only 6 grand. Let's say you decide that you do not want to invest in either one of those, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now you have to put your money someplace where it's not going to grow very much at all. In the case of
Mm.
my ex-girlfriend, you can put it in the bank. In the bank, you get FDIC insurance. It's
Mhm.
guaranteed. You put the money in the bank, FDIC insurance, that means up to $250,000 a year, your money's not going to go down. It's
Mhm.
insured, right? You
Mhm.
don't get that kind of guarantee in a 401k plan. You don't get that
Oh,
kind of money in an IRA. You don't have the potential of growth in that bank plan, though. Maybe
right,
just a little
exactly.
bit. So you got to risk the money in order to get some of the reward. That's kind of the point of that. Makes sense.
Yeah, so when you talked about, when you do that assessment, finding out what your risk tolerance is. So obviously, if I'm going to put my money in a bank, I'm probably not going to want to take any too much risk with my
Exactly.
money. And if I had the quarter of a million in the bank, I got the quarter of a million. Where if I go over here and I have no really control over what the plan is being invested in, then I could lose everything or a great deal of it. So yeah, that's some balancing acts there.
It is there, right? But remember, though, before we get too far off in there, you want to use the right tool for the right job. So
Right.
yes, your portfolio will go up and down, but you don't lose till you sell. Because even though your
Okay.
portfolio goes down, there's a chance it's going to come back up if you wait long enough.
Enough.
Right? There
Okay.
are over 7,500 stocks, just stocks alone
Mhm.
in the investment world. 7,500 of them. There's no way one person is going to know the best ones for all of them. So you're going to get a mix, right?
Mhm.
Every dog has their day. If you're in the market, it's your financial advisor's job to prove or to make sure that you have assets that are appropriate for the investment. So if you get a mix of those, you're going to get appropriate investments. Now, some of them are going to go up and some of them are going to go down. And for most Americans, not all of them, but for most Americans, a mix that's going to go up and down is most appropriate,
Okay.
right?
And they
So
would
if
and
you're
they
looking
would
at
need
your
to
port,
sit
sit
with you
down with your
with
advisor. Yes.
advisor in order for
Yeah.
them to find out what that,
It is, yeah.
that perfect mix is.
Yes, yeah. So if you're looking at your portfolio and you're putting the money in, and you see that part of your portfolio is going up and part of your portfolio is going down, you can probably rest assured you did a good thing. You got the right mix,
Okay,
right?
because it will balance itself out at some point.
Exactly. Because you're
Okay.
putting money in, and remember, the stock market goes up. So
Mhm.
if you put your money in here when it's low, because you're putting the money in, it's gonna go up, right? If you look at
Right.
any what do you call it? The chart, any chart
Mhm.
of the market, you'll
Mhm.
see that it always goes up. It doesn't go up in the short term. It goes up and down in the short term. So it goes
Mhm.
up and down like this.
Mhm.
That's kind of neat on a screen. It goes
I
up
know,
and
huh?
down like that. But in general, it goes up,
Okay.
right? The way for you to take advantage of it is be in that market when it's up. So that's why we call it a long-term investor, because it's going to take 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years for it to get here when it starts here. So if you're
Mm.
in it here, you're making money along the way,
Mhm. All
even
around.
though in the short term, it's going up and down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Now, but that gets a little hairy if I'm closer to my retirement age, right?
Right.
Like right now, it's kind of volatile. I think the biggest time frame was 12 years ago or 13 years ago when we had the market crash from all the subprimes and all that sort of stuff. And those individuals that were right there ready to retire, they didn't have the longevity to wait that out because they were ready to retire. So, and I guess we could say we're not as bad, but I don't know, you're the expert. We're probably not as bad as we were at that time in 2007,
Mhm.
right now, right?
I don't want to say that because for some of us, we are at a bad spot. Some of us lost our
Okay.
gig, right? At least a
Yeah.
lot of people there still had their gig. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
a
that's
lot of people
true.
lost it, right? I would say this though, that what's most important is 5 years before you retire, you want to have that conversation with your advisor so that you can transition from putting money in to taking money out,
Mm-hmm.
right? 5 years. In 2008/7/8 is when this tumble happened.
Mm-hmm.
2010, we had 16% growth in the most conservative stock option out there, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
market was booming. So if you looked at that and said, hey, I got 5 years to retire, what should I do? Your financial advisor would have said, most likely you've got to put something in there to grow, but you want to hang on to what you've got, right?
Mm.
In that case, you hang on to what you got, and then you put yourself in a well diversified portfolio, on that portion of your portfolio, 16% improvement. And then for the next 10 years, we had slow growth coming out
Mm-hmm.
of that mix, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
not bad if you know what's going on. There were some
Right.
of us that were walking around saying, and I remember, I think I told you this, I need a downturn. Why do you need a downturn? Because I need to buy cheap, right? So there
Because
were some
everything.
people walking around saying, I'm 50 years old, the market's been booming. I've the market's been going up, but it's been getting more expensive for me to buy because if this is the line and it's going up and down like this stuff is expensive. That's when I want to be selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be
Mm-hmm.
selling when it's expensive, but I can't. I got to buy because I got to go in. I have
Mm-hmm.
nothing to buy down here, right? So when the market tanks, that's my opportunity to load up. And
So that's
as
where we
the
kind of are right now.
yeah, this is our opportunity to load up, right?
Okay.
Because now things are cheap. So if we
Mm-hmm.
can buy cheap when the market comes back, we get to profit from that windfall. But what does
Mm-hmm.
that actually mean? It's kind of like when we go back to that house example, right?
Mm-hmm.
You buy your house at 50, you sell it at 200, you make $150,000. You
Mm-hmm.
buy your house at 50 or at 100, I'm sorry, you buy your house at 100, you sell it at $200,000, you only made $100,000. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
want to buy cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the market in the house is only going up. The cheaper you buy it, the more money you make. That's the mentality we want to have. Buy
Right,
cheap,
right.
sell high. So, in answer to your question, I just lost all my money. What do I do? Well, we have that section of our show called Don't Be This Guy.
So are we in the don't be this guy now? I like this section.
If we jump over there for a minute, you don't want to be that guy, right?
Right.
You don't want to be the guy that keeps putting your money in, putting your money in, putting your money in, never talks to your advisor, never rebalances, never gets the right mix. You don't want to be that guy, right? Because you're going to end up on the wrong side of the equation. You
Mm,
want to be the guy that talks with your advisor, gets the right mix of stocks and bonds, puts as much money in as they can, rebalance their portfolio so they take advantage of market upturns and downturns. And 5 years out, they say to their advisor, how do I transition into taking this money out? Right?
mm-hmm.
Those are the rules. That's how you play the retirement business and game,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got to do that.
Okay.
Okay. If we go to what's happening right now, the market
Mm-hmm.
is topsy turvy. It's going up and down. So every day, stuff is going up, stuff is going
Yep.
down. If you talk to those tech stocks, they're going up.
Mm-hmm.
How do we take advantage of that? Most stocks have a basket of between 50 and 500, or most portfolio funds rather have a basket of between 50 and 500 funds in there, right? So you're already kind of diversified no matter what fund you choose.
Okay.
If you take that questionnaire, you're going to get the right amount of stocks and bonds. Not only that, you're going to be able to divide up those stocks and bonds between large cap, mid cap, small cap, short term, intermediate, long term bonds, government, corporate, the whole thing. You're going to get a good mix. I already know as an advisor the right mix of investments for you. I already know the amount of large cap, mid cap, small cap. I know the amount of bonds. I know the amount of government bonds, international bonds. I already know the right mix for you. What I don't know is your risk tolerance, the right amount of stocks versus bonds that you need in your portfolio. That you have to tell me that you do with that risk questionnaire. Once you take that, it's
Mm-hmm.
all good.
Okay.
Right now, what if you say, yo, Jay, I can't take that questionnaire. I don't know what a bond is. I don't know what a stock is. I can't be doing that, right? It
Uh-huh.
scares me. I let my husband do that. We'll talk about that later because we got to. I can't do that. All right, the target date fund. It's, in my opinion, a necessary evil, but it is a way to relieve a little bit of pressure. If you know the target date funds, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 70% of people in America that have a 401k plan have a target date fund. They're managed by professional managers. They're the ones that have a particular date on them 25, 2025, 2030, 2040, 2050, those kinds of funds. They are a well diversified portfolio. They're managed by professional managers, people that do this every day. They manage your portfolio according to your age. So
Mm.
if you don't know what to do, it's a great way to go, right? It's a fire and forget solution. As you put your money in and as you get older, the risk tolerance reduces so that you take less risk when you're older than you do when you're younger. Okay. The
Okay.
problem with that, in my idea, is one big one or two big ones. The first is it's a long-term investment, which means even though you're going to get, even though you're going to be in the market for probably once you leave your company another 20 or 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
the fund still thinks you're in the market for that length of time. So when you reach 65, they have in their investment philosophy that you're going to be in the market for 20 years. So if the market tanks, they're expecting it. They're expecting
Okay.
it to tank so that as you keep putting money in, you're going to buy cheap. And they're thinking about that until you take it out. You're
Okay.
not thinking that. You're thinking, when I hit 65, I'm taking this money out,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you hit 65, they're thinking you're still going to be there. Okay. So you have to take control and talk to that advisor 5 years out, right?
Okay.
Makes sense. The
Good
other thing they do,
advice.
yeah, and the other thing they do is they assume that everybody who's a particular age is going to have the same risk. They have to because they're using computers to do this. But
Right.
I'm very different. I mean, you're dramatically younger than I am, but when I was your age, I probably still had different risk. I don't have kids in my family, right? And my
Uh-huh.
dad's taken care of by my sisters up in Alaska. So I have a different risk than most people in their 50s and 60s, maybe even in
Okay.
their 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The right risk for me is dramatically different than someone who's my age. And notice I'm not telling you how old I am,
I
but
know, but that's okay.
it's dramatically different.
People can guess.
Yes, I'm only 35. But
Okay.
so you got to get the right mix for you. And I'll tell you a quick story, and then we want to talk about our second topic if we have time, so you can let me know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Quick story. I met my ex-girlfriend when we were in college. Um, the first mix that was appropriate for her was about 90% bonds and about 10% stock, right? She was
Okay.
very, very conservative. Now, would she make as much money as someone who had the reverse mix? Probably not, right? But she'd
Mm-hmm.
make a little bit. And was
Mm-hmm.
that good for her? Yes. But more importantly, it was better for me, was best for me. Because if you give Gail $1 today and it's not there tomorrow, there will be no peace in the household. And she will share that pain.
Okay.
She won't get any
Oh,
sleep.
I get it.
I won't get any sleep. It's going to be bad. So that was the right mix. Okay.
Okay.
But Gail had me to contend with. So over the years, I wore her down, right?
Uh-huh.
Now the right mix for her, and she's in her 50s. She's older than me. She's in
Mm-hmm.
her 50s.
Quite considerably.
Yeah, don't tell her I said that. But she's in her 50s, and the right mix for her in her 50s is about 50% stock, 50% bonds.
Okay.
She's mellowed out. She can handle the risk, right?
Right.
She's going to make dramatically more money now that she's older than she did when she was younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, the golden thing about retirement plans and what we've trying to explain and guess around is compound interest. That's what they should have taught you in school.
Right.
Compound interest. Things build on things.
Right.
Interest builds on interest. The
Mm-hmm.
average return of the stock market since 1929 has been between 9 and 12%. Some
Mm-hmm.
people say nowadays 8 to 10, but at the
Mm-hmm.
least 10% or so,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
9 to 12%. The average return of the bond market has been between 6 and 8%. Some folks would
Mm-hmm.
say 5 to 7, but let's call it 7 to 8%. All right,
Okay.
but that's compounding
Okay.
year upon year upon year. So you get 10% of this, you get another 10% of that, another 10% of that, right? It's compounding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all that money needs to compound in order for you to have a nice pot at the end. So that's our goal. That's what we want to think. We're not thinking about the money we're going to get in 2021. We're not thinking about the money that we lost in 2017, 2010. It makes no difference. It's
Mm.
not even worth thinking about. What you're thinking about is how many shares I'm going to have at the end because the value of those shares at the end is dramatically more than the value down here,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So we're a
So is that's
well-diversified
the long
portfolio.
term.
That's what we mean by long term.
Okay.
Okay, so
Excellent.